Stewart-Haas Racing going to be closing operations at the end of the 2024 season. I think we all kind of saw this coming. Like, it's not a total shock. We've been hearing the rumors. It started with, hey, a couple of these charters might be for sale. Then it became, hey, they might be selling the whole garage and everything going on over there at SHR. And this, to me, Tino, is what happens when you don't have leaders or when you have absent leaders. Tony's been off the last couple of years doing NHR, like pretty much every single weekend. Gene's always been F1 first and F1 oriented, like he probably has to be realistically. Joe Custer's been trying to hold down the fort of the day-to-day back at the shop. And, I think Joe Custer is a great leader. We're hearing potential rumors that he could start his own Cup Series team. This is a team, they lost the Busch Light sponsorship. They lost the Smithfield sponsorships as Harvick and Almirola leave. And now we're just seeing a 69 win Cup Series team like disappear. How do you feel about it? What's your takeaways?
Anytime a team closes down or has to shut their doors, it's definitely sad. It's also surprising too. I mean, obviously maybe the writing's been on the wall, like you mentioned, in recent years, or at least when we knew, it was only Kevin Harvick for the last few seasons now, really putting that team on his back. And it's not that the other drivers weren't capable either, especially now. I mean, Gregson's been performing well. Briscoe, I think he has talent to win in the Cup Series on a consistent basis. And like how Kevin said, Tony's not at the track all the time, and maybe he doesn't have to be, but it definitely played a role. And because you saw a difference, I think, because he was, even after Tony Stewart retired, I feel like he was still involved in NASCAR, here and there, and Stewart-Haas Racing benefited from that. I mean, Kevin Harvick had some of his best years, winning 10 races, 7, here and there. And that was great to see. And then once he sort of faded away, like you mentioned, and racing in other series and being a part of other projects, Stewart-Haas Racing really went down from there. And, what I'm most interested in, the aftermath now is, okay, where do these drivers go? And do they go to teams that are already established? You mentioned potential new teams. And I mean, we know where the charters went and the cars essentially, but now it's like, where did these guys go in free agency here?
Yeah. And like, first of all, as you said, like it is super sad, dude. Like a lot of people just lost their employment. A lot of people were uncertain, but when you have people like Rodney Childress there who really, like, I do agree with you that 14 kind of really sounds like they were the glue to this entire operation the last couple of years. And it makes sense when we didn't see the speed out of Chase Briscoe in the last year and a half, that we've kind of been wondering what's been going on with him. And Eric Almirola outside of Martinsville last year didn't really have the upside we were looking for. And it kind of all makes sense now. I feel like we finally have a pretty widened view that everyone's come out and talked about this. But speaking of these drivers, like I wish we could do some future betting on this. And I would say it would almost be minus money that Chase Briscoe probably going to end up with the Wood brothers. They're probably going to can Harrison Burton. He's been asked the last couple of years. Get him out of there. Get Briscoe. He's a Ford man. Keep him. He's going to have a little bit of personal sponsorship money he's going to bring in there with the tractors as well. So I think Briscoe's a great candidate to stay in Ford. What do you think happens with Gragson and Josh Berry? Because to me, they're the two biggest wild cards. They've shown us a lot this season, but where do they land? That's a question mark.
Definitely. And I agree there with Briscoe as well. I think that's probably the best fit for him. I just feel like it kind of 21 fits maybe his vibe, so to say, old school racer type deal. And I think that'll it'll definitely benefit that team as well, having Chase Briscoe rather than Harrison Burton. But in terms of the other guys, here's what I'm thinking. So 2311 was a team that purchased one of the charters there, right? So
that's what we're assuming,
assuming, so it's not confirmed yet. But to me, I feel like one of those two drivers could end up there, maybe will end up there. And if that's the case, how do they decide between Josh Berry and Noah Gragson? I feel like with how good Josh Berry has been, at least on short tracks, and here's another thing, does Josh Berry bring Rodney with him? Arguably one of the best crew chiefs he's definitely top 3 in the entire series, right? So I think with that pairing, I don't think that's something Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's going to pass up on. I think Josh Berry goes to 2311, and I can see Gragson at a front row. I mean, I
Yeah.
think he's performed, like, especially with that alliance too that they have with Team Penske. I was gonna say, maybe Gregson's performed a little bit better than how front row has, if that makes sense, this so far this season. But really, that might not even be true because Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland, notching off some surprising top 10 finishes, top 15s consistently every week. So I feel like Gregson front row and Josh Berry 2311 could be the move there.
Yeah,
And then Priest goes to trucks. Sorry, Priest, forgot about you.
No, I think you're 100% spot on there with Ryan Preece. I think he needs to reset the clock here. Elliot even put out a blog earlier on the website today and said, hey, maybe Preece even just goes back to modifieds. I don't know about that, but I totally think he resets the clock here on his career. I also think that you're onto something with Josh Berry, because whoever lures Josh Berry, we heard Rodney saying this week on a Dirty Mo interview that he's not going to let Josh Berry fail on his watch. So I think there's some connection. Rodney was the guy who handpicked Josh to be in that car. So I think, like, you're getting a weapon when in Rodney Childress. He's probably the biggest shaker and mover out of this whole bunch, I think, is how Elliot laid it out in his blog. So I agree with you there. And I do think then front row potentially absorbs these other SHR guys. Cole Custer probably comes up from the Xfinity series. He could pilot that third confirmed front row motorsports car that we're going to see here in the next year as well. If Joe doesn't start his own team as well. And, we see a little Custer family team, but outside of that, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here. And it sucks. It fucking sucks, but it's the domino effect, and it is NASCAR, and it is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is crazy to see like how they won championships, and
Yeah,
now and recently too. Like, we're not talking about years ago or in the past, or
sure.
like these they were winning team. They were a winning team, started to falter, and they're just not able to come back from it. So definitely sad. Heart goes out to the people involved, and hopefully they're able to rebound. And the same thing with the drivers. I feel like everyone involved, with how strong Stewart-Haas Racing as a whole, as an organization,
Yeah.
has proven to be championship caliber. I think the people and the drivers will rebound